Okay? And then they tell us that he became a Muslim during the time Uthman was the ruler of the Muslims. That's very late in time. We're not speaking about a person who became a Muslim early on. This is very late in the game, so to speak, that this person became a Muslim. Okay. What other information do we have about this character coming from these books? It is said that he went from Yemen, and when you follow this information, you think this person had quick means of transportation going between these areas swiftly and post-haste. He went from Yemen to Al-Basra, and in Al-Basra he tried to have Muslims revolt against the Islamic government in Al-Madinah. It seems like he didn't find any response there in a significant way, and the ruler of Al-Basra, Abdullah ibn Amir, virtually expelled him from there. So where does he go from there? According to these books and these sources of information, he goes from Al-Basra to Ash-Sham. And these books that speak about these books of history, that speak about his presence in Ash-Sham, says that he also there was very busy trying to intensify the popular opposition to the Islamic decision maker in Al-Madinah. Particularly, of course, the person we are speaking about is Uthman, the second successor to the Prophet in ruling. And there, these same books tell us that he ran this Abdullah ibn Saba, who, by the way, in some history books is referred to as Ibn as-Sawda, the child of the black woman. Of course, also there are some Muslims who, because of today's racism, when they read something like this, it's going to cause them to lose balance. I'm just going to leave it at that. It doesn't matter, brothers and sisters, how this person is identified in these books, and it doesn't matter the type of racial or the type of negative connotations that are being used. Let us try to look as far as we can understand what we know to be true from this history to see whether this person was, in the first instance, whether he really existed, and in the second instance, what he really did, if he did anything at all. So he goes to Ash-Sham, Muawiyah being the governor there, and there it is said in these books that he met Abu Dharr there. And these books go on to say that Ibn Saba had an influence on Abu Dharr. Now listen to this. How can a person who just became a Muslim very recently in the time of Uthman have an influence on Abu Dharr, who had become a Muslim a generation or two before him? It seems we are dealing here with information that has to be scrutinized. This information cannot be taken at face value. And so they also continue to tell us that he was the one who influenced Abu Dharr to read the meaning meanings of the Quran as an opposition to those who have wealth and those who have power. As if Abu Dharr himself didn't have enough information to understand the meanings of the Quran, and he needed this type of upstart personality to come and tell him what the meanings of the Quran are. And then they tell us that he also met, meaning Ibn Saba, this borderline character, met Ubadah ibn As-Samit, who took him to Muawiyah, and they had an exchange, after which Muawiyah expelled this person from Asham. So where does he go now? Now he goes to Egypt. And these books tell us in Egypt he found resonance with what he is saying. People began to listen to him because this guy is advocating revolution or a change of governors in Al-Medina, or what is called in today's time a type of military coup that will unseat those who are ruling in Al-Medina and come up with better rulers. And these books continue to tell us that Ibn Saba was telling the Muslims that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is more worthy of returning to life than Isa ibn Maryam. Because in our Islamic concept, we have the return of Isa ibn Maryam to the world. He said, no, but Muhammad is more worthy of this return than Isa. And he quotes an ayah. He says, and listen to this, you talk about quoting ayat out of context or quoting ayat to serve some immediate objective. He quotes the ayah, إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Certainly he who has mandated the Quran upon you, O Muhammad, will have you return for an encore, meaning to do this all over again. And he began to preach that every Nabi has a wasi, and the Prophet, being the Nabi, had Ali as his wasi. And just like the Prophet was the last of the Anbiya, and so was Ali the last of the Awsiya. We should mention here, because obviously you're not the one who's going through this type of digging up this information, we should mention that there are two very important, if not the most important references, historical references on that time period. A book written by Ibn Sa'd called At-Tabaqat, and a book written by Al-Baladhuri called Ashraf Al-Ansab. These two books, especially the latter one by Al-Baladhuri, that goes into the nitty-gritty details of that time period, never mentions this character Ibn Saba.